Good afternoon. Thank you, madam, for the kind introduction. Shall I say? Why I have chosen this topic is benefit for personal skill development. Every station has facilities to perform basic dermatosurgery, and I think it will benefit for the specialty. The prioritization is losing because of new technological advances like laser. In the previous laser workshop, the instructor was teaching about the CO2 laser machine, and one of our doctors was asking, can we remove skin tags with the CO2 laser? Of course it can, but our prioritization is losing with the advanced technologies and the personal interest itself. I will start with few cases that we have performed basic dermatosurgery excisions. 47-year-old male is suspected BCC over left lower back. You can think of the options that we can do. You can always refer to the plastic surgeon, or you can think of any other excision options. 32-year-old teacher with 2 by 4 centimeter dermal lump over the right lower back. When she wears the sari, the lump exposed to the outer skin. So the problem is, if we excise the lesion, will it cause a more disfiguring scar at the site of the lesion? Another 47-year-old male with lipoma 2 weeks before her daughter's wedding. This patient was encountered during my plastic surgical appointment. This is during my LRH appointment. 11-year-old boy awaiting second stage-wise excision of nevus sebaceous. You can see the mark of the first excision. 13-year-old boy, same nevus sebaceous, underwent 2 excisions. The problem is the scar. You can see some evidence of the residual tumor also. I'm sorry, the image is not very good. A large nevus sebaceous underwent 1 stage-wise excision. Came for the second excision. The patient with a hypertrophic scar after tattoo removal. 22-year-old unmarried female with congenital melanocytic nevus of the right side, preauricular area. A 19-year-old with inflammatory linear varicose epidermal nevus over right anterior neck. It looks like a granulomatous lesion, but histologically it has been excluded and the lesion was since birth. This patient is suspected pigmented BCC. Another case of BCC. The plastic surgeons, doing surgery is their passion. So I don't know whether there are any conflicts among the specialties doing surgery and interest in doing surgery. Right? I like to include in my update local anesthesia, suturing, how to give the best scar to the patients, and the flaps. I won't cover the graft. The basic dermatosurgery, we had a nice lecture by Dr. Sadgurunathan sir. It's a nice lecture. And thank you, sir. Some brief description about local anesthesia. Lignocaine plus lignocaine with adrenaline. Plain lignocaine versus lignocaine with adrenaline. The main effect of lignocaine is prolonged anesthesia because of the vasoconstriction, and it will decreases the risk of systemic toxicity. The maximum dose is 4.5 for the plain lignocaine and double the dose in with adrenaline, 7 mg per kg. I will show you how to calculate. So plain lignocaine, 2% lignocaine means 2 gram in 100 ml. That means 20 mg in 1 ml. In a 60 kg man, 4.5 into 6, 270. Basically, 13.5 ml is a maximum plain lignocaine dose. Whereas if calculated, 21 ml is a maximum lignocaine plus adrenaline dose. Same amount of lignocaine in 1 ml. In principles of giving local anesthesia, basic principles are local infiltration and field block. Local infiltration we can give intradermally or subcutaneously. The difference is intradermal, there's increased resistance, so patient feel pain, whereas it gives rapid induction of anesthesia. Where in subcutaneous injections, Subcutaneous injections, there won't be any resistance, so the injection is painless. Create no bumps. You can see in the image, the injection marks are shown. There's bleb formation, that is, the injection is intradermal, not subcutaneous. So diagrammatic representation, subcutaneous won't cause a bleb, intradermal causes a bleb. Whereas causing blebs is controversial. It may be easy for the surgery or may be difficult because of the changing of the anatomical structures. The other one, field block. We are not directly giving to the lesion. For example, in cyst removal, if we directly give to the lesion, cyst can rupture. So we are blocking the nerves which comes horizontally to the lesion. So it's ideal for the scalp surgeries, ideal for cyst removal. It reduces the total dose of anesthesia, useful for anesthetize in large areas, and minimal distortion of the surgical right, and ideal for the scalp, where the cutaneous nerves comes horizontally. In a label of a suture material, you can find everything. I won't go into detail. The type of the suture, type of the suture, type of the needle, cutting, conventional cutting or reverse cutting, absorbable, unabsorbable. The main classification is natural versus synthetic, absorbable versus non-absorbable, monofilament or braided. I will only explain what is monofilament and braided. Monofilament means single filament, so the resistance is low when it goes through the skin, whereas multifilament is combination of monofilaments. The strength is higher, but the resistance is also higher, but the problem is within this braided, the bacteria can dislodge and may cause skin stitch reactions. Monofilament, low coefficient of friction, that means slide easily through the skin, whereas braided, it's difficult. Increased tensile strength, increased foreign body reaction. So cosmetically important science, it's not recommended to use the braided. Always use the monofilament. This image taken from the Bologna. The patient left with a running subcuticular suture. The stitch was there for 1 year. You can see it can be removed easily without any resistance. It's a prolene. In basic surgical last way, we have to take informed written consent, design the position of the surgical scar, always mark the incision. If you can, take photographs against the skin, use eye towel if available, and anesthesia. So I call Langer's lines or relaxed skin tension lines. I will show my cases where I apply the incision lines. Preauricular area is Langer's lines are vertical. Is lipoma, Langer's lines are horizontal. Skin closure, briefly. For the easiness, I have only categorized only 2. There are 2 methods of skin closure. First, you have to release the tension of the gaping wound by we can release the skin tension by deep dermal stitches as well as with Metrus sutures. With Metrus sutures, within one go we can close the dermis and the skin. In the deep dermal buried sutures, the advantage is we can put any skin over to the superficial skin where the cosmetic effect is very prominent. It's a deep dermal stitch. You have to remember that knot should be buried, not on the top of the lesion, to reduce the skin reaction, and you have to cut the end short. And you better avoid this in scalp, because if you caught up few hair follicles along the stitch, it can cause scarring alopecia. So not recommended for the scalp. If we once we release the skin with a deep buried suture, we can suture the skin is running subcuticular or interrupted. This was the patient with lipoma done under supervision of the consultant plastic surgeon. Transverse skin is the lipoma is huge. It created a pocket. We excised some of the skin lesions and few deep dermal stitches plus running subcutaneous. You can barely see the 6-knot prolene on the top of the either sides. So patient can go without even a dressing. So his daughter's wedding was 2 weeks later. So it was very cosmetically acceptable. So lady is congenital melanocytic nevus, again done under supervision. The problem is the auriculotemporal artery runs directly beneath the skin. Always it's handy to know about a little bit about anatomy when you're doing surgery. Deep dermal stitches was running subcuticular. You can barely see the blue color prolene. 6-knot prolene is thick as a hair shaft, but you can't even see that. So it's a teacher with that dermal nodule on the waist. The wrong thing that I have done was I have used black silk at that skin. There is 1 year back. So it was a deep cut. I first anchored the center of the lesion with a horizontal mattress, so skin was very tight. So I closed the ends with simple interrupted. The scar was quite good. The problem with the scalp is, I know many of my colleagues having problems with the scalp. The pneumonic scalp contains skin, connective tissue, aponeurosis, loose areolar tissue, and pericranium. The ideal plane to do undermining is this loose areolar tissue, where it does not contain any blood vessels. Loose areolar tissue, it is very mobile. When you move the scalp, you can easily it is mobile over the loose areolar tissue. It can be easily separated without a scalp. Even with the finger, you can separate the layers. There are no structures to get damaged, so bleeding will be less. Usually we do undermining on the subcutaneous where the prominent blood vessels are there, so we get a lot of complications as well as post-procedure scarring. Undermining in superficial layers will also damage the hair follicles, causing secondary scarring alopecia. This was the case, came for the second excision. First excision was done. I'm sorry, the image is not close. We can do another stage-wise excision to remove the scar revision, or we can remove and ask the patient to come, or we can remove it altogether. The skin lesion was removed together. The center of the lesion is anchored with the vertical mattress and tension was released, and with a continuous suture. The healing always occurs in between stitches, so better not to put very close stitches. I put little bit wider stitches. Okay, before going, this is color division from my teaching area of Beticolor. You can see the lagoon and the medical faculty is right over there, the edge of the river. That side goes to towards Pasikuda and Trinco. This is Kalmone and Arugampe. Okay, are we done with the surgery? How do we give the best scar for the patient? Once the skin is inside, strength becomes 0. Even the best healed scar, it can only regain 80% of the original tensile strength of the skin. To whom do we advise scar therapy? History of hypertrophic keloid, for sure we have to advise them and monitor for development of keloid and hypertrophic. And how do we determine which patients will come with a bad scar? Maybe in patients, first instance, they may have a good scar. Second instance, they may come with a very bad ugly scar. In the same patient, different sides of the body behaves very differently. So, ideally, in all patients, we have to advise scar therapy. Usually, we give 2 weeks for the scar to mature and then start scar therapy. Adequate moisturizer till the wound heals. They recommend tetracycline or betadine ointment which contains oil. After the wound is healed, even coconut oil or olive oil at the scar massage. Now you can see the stitches, blue color stitches. This is tetracycline ointment just after the procedure. How do you do scar massage? You have to hold with your 2 fingers along the scar and once at a time we have to massage throughout the skin. The mechanism is break down the excessively formed collagen. Silicon containing gels we use frequently. The mechanism sections are it hydrates the skin, it regulates fibroblast production and reduces collagen production, causing softer scar, protects the scar tissue from bacterial invasion. There's something called bacteria-induced excessive collagen formation. Superficial bacteria causes fibroblast activation. So silicon sheets will prevent. It modulates growth factors and matrix metalloproteinases and reduce itching and discomfort, ultimately giving a softer and a flatter scar. Other measures, usual sun protection, friction avoidance, moisturization. Always free to involve occupational therapy, especially at a functional important site. So how long do I need to follow up the patient? For their lifetime or 6 months, 8 months? In other words, how many months it will take for a scar to fully mature? Usually scar matured in 18 months, so after that, if there are no risk factors, hypertrophic or keloid scar, no need to follow up. So 1.5 years, ideally we have to follow up the patient. Briefly, I will describe the hypertrophic scars, keloid, how to manage. Intralesional steroids can be given in both. Both can be excised stage-wise, but the important thing is keloid scars, only intralesional excisions. Never go extralesional, so it will cause more keloids. So previous patient with keloid formation after tattoo hypertrophic scar after tattoo removal. One image I have included the normal skin also. This is post-procedure image. Always you can combine with intralesional steroids at the procedure before 1 week before. Few words about grafts versus flaps. Graft I won't cover. Flaps I will discuss few important flaps which we can use in our day-to-day dermatological practice. Difference between is graft is dead tissue which we taken from a donor side. So we completely cut off from the blood supply. It can live. Whereas a flaps contains its own blood supply. We do not completely separate its blood supply. The flap also may die. So the dead tissue may live, live tissue may die. Graft failure is accepted phenomena, but if a flap fails, it will be a disaster. Usually flap, we get it from the adjacent skin. So if a flap fails, it will be a disaster. In cosmetically acceptable skin, ideally you should put flaps with the adjacent skin, so because of the donor site never perform as the native skin. So face flaps are preferred. Basic types of flaps we can do in with local anesthesia, advanced rotational, transposition and jet plastering. Advancement means we create a defect by removing a lesion, and we create a flap and advance the skin lesion to close the gap. Taken from the net, the BCC removed. The one excision line goes to the nasolabial fold and one below the eyebrow. The flap created and advanced and sutured. This was the LRH case. 13-year-old boy underwent stage-wise excision. Two problems. There was scarring alopecia as well as the scar. You can see the scar formation. There are some amount of good here and there's a scar here. This is due to the undermining in the subcutaneous pain where we damage the hair follicles. It causes secondary alopecia. So what can we do? We can do elliptical excision and excise the scar. We can do the ellipse in 2 ways, horizontally or vertically, or we can excise the scar tissue only to preserve the normal skin. The thing that can do is we can this square shaped defect. We can remove only the scarred area. The thing I have done was we remove the defect and advance edges like an edge. Created 2 flaps, 2 advancement flaps, and we undermine the 2 flaps and can approximate the edges. This is called bilateral advancement flap. This scar must look like this. It's another case, 11-year-old boy in second stage wise excision. That patient only had the scar on the excision margin. But this also we can do in 2 ways. Either we can excise the scar tissue in ellipse and close and ask him to come back in 1 or 2 months time. Or we can excise some amount of the scar tissue plus the nevus sebaceous, or always we can record to the plastic surgeon. or you can create your own advanced flaps. So in maximum tissue conservation, I have created triangle, so we can remove as well as the scar. So we can undermine all three layers and advance the 3 flaps together. This is after the procedure. We go to the rotation flaps. Rotation means we create a flap and rotates around the pivot point. Pivot point means the maximum point where there is increased resistance. We create a triangular defect, including the lesion. We excise it, draw half circle or 3/4 circle, and undermine the flap and rotate toward this axis and do the suturing. So patient with RT, I had the privilege to do under supervision in my plastic surgery department. He had a precise triangular defect on the area. These are superficial abrasions, triangular defect. Imagine there is a tumor here, tumor lesion here. To preserve maximal cosmetic, to minimize the cosmetic disfigurement, the ideal thing to do here is a rotation flap. So just excise the edges, create a triangular defect, and create an incision, and undermine the flap, and we can rotate in the angle to close the defect. This is 1 week after the surgery. You can see the defect is lost. You can see the 6 node stitches probably coming here, coming over the eyebrow. It's another type of rotational flap. This is called yin-yang type. You can circularly excise the lesion, ideal for the cutaneous malignancies, and excise 2 limbs and rotate and suture. This was the patient described, came to Betty. A 47-year-old male is suspected BCC, so initial plan to refer to the plastic surgeon. So decided to do the surgery at the clinic. This was the excision margins. Sorry, not very clear. Excision margins and the 2 limbs. We can circularly remove with adequate margin, circularly and underneath. You can close the gaps and do the stitches. I am sorry, with that time I was not done my plastic surgery with the basic surgical skills I have done. The wrong thing that I used was, again I have used black silk there. Ideal to use Prolene or nylon. Transposition flaps. I don't have actual image. Transposition means just you create a flap and change the position. Transposition. Create a flap like the defect and transposition the flap and suture it. Okay, to conclude, local anesthesia, suturing, Besca, flaps. I won't cover graphs, but I will show the 2 patients that I've shown you before with the BCC. 72-year-old female is suspected basal cell carcinoma. Ideally, it should go ahead with the flap, but in old ages, with the cosmetic concerns, the plastic surgeon decided to do a graft. This was after the procedure. The graft was taken from the right supraclavicular area. It was buried with absorbable, rapidly absorbable sutures. So this is the case. 68-year-old female with BCC. Completed with the graft. Not for cutaneous malignancies, for the leg ulcers and the areas where there's no minimal cosmetic disfigurement, we can even try with equipments available in our clinic. And so the last case, inflammatory linear varicose epidermal nevus lesion was since birth. Anyway, we explored granulomatous diseases with repeated biopsies. So patient was following up in our clinic for more than 1 or 2 weeks, 1 or 2 years with keratolytics with poor response. So what are the options here? How do you manage this? Treatment options are, we can again manage with keratolytics, dermabrasion, antihistamines, antipruritics, and we can go for CO2 laser. The problem is here with CO2 laser is it not very feasible. If we ablate till the dermis, we can remove the abnormal dermis there. So can we do surgical excision of the lesion? We decided to do the surgical excision. If they can do with the CO2 laser, always there's option for surgery. Sorry, my marker pen was lost. I drawn it in the carbon pen. First, I decided to remove the largest lesion. This was, I have created the same triangular flaps, 3 triangular flaps. I have excised the lesion into the derm. You can see the subcutaneous factor also, there was bleeding. And the problem here was the knee joint underneath and bleeding. This is after the deep dermal stitches. I released the strength of the scar by putting 3-knot Vicryl absorbable suture and release the tension. Then you can go for skin suture. And this is the after skin suture. We completely removed the big lesion. This was done 2 weeks back. I don't know what was the. I don't have a heel image. This pair of these are called loops. It becomes handy when if you want to use surgical skills in your dermatological practices. Dr. Tamilan's loops. For the sake of interest, I just ordered it. It was just $45. In the local market, it will cost around $50,000. This is just $45. Okay. Advanced technologies versus old school surgery. In our old training stations, laser is available only at 4, but old stations, basic dermatological practices are available. If you are really interested, please select more than 2 weeks in your dermatology plastic surgical appointment. And I'd like to acknowledge my trainer, Dr. Tamilanan, Madam Chandani Vikramratna, my former trainer, and Dr. Sadgurunathan sir for excellent lecture in our advanced module of dermatology, and Dr. Vipula Pereira, excellent plastic surgeon, and Dr. Ashok Vijayamana, consultant general surgeon, teaching hospital Kurunegala. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.